Today on Stamp TV, I want to show you a technique that I stumbled on by accident using Gina Designs ink and a Copic marker. My finished project features stamps from the Grateful Heart mini stamp set and the Autumn Blessings mini stamp set, both found in the new Grateful Heart Stamp TV kit. Let me show you the tools and products you're going to need to make this background technique. Okay, first of all, you're going to need some ink, and I'm using the Gina Designs Ocean Mist ink, some fresh asparagus ink, some dark chocolate, and some of the new craft ink. Then you're going to need a lighter colored Copic marker, and I'm using the BG10, which is the cool shadow marker. You're also going to need a sponge dauber if you'd like to add a little sponging into this background technique, and you're going to need some stamps, and I've chosen stamps from Autumn Blessings and from Grateful Heart. And the ones that I've chosen are this Leafy element for the main background image. And then I wanted to add a couple other little images in there just to make it feel a little bit more like a fall card. So I'm using the acorn and I'm using this little dotted swirl. So what I was trying to do was I was testing out Copic markers against the colored Gina Designs ink. Our black ink is formulated just a little bit different than our colored ink. So I wanted to see if Copic markers worked well with the Gina Designs colored ink. And you know what? It doesn't. But in the process of playing with this, it looked so pretty and it looked very much like batik that I thought I would show it to you as a background technique. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this Leafy element from Grateful Heart and some fresh asparagus ink. Now our black ink, a lot of people have lots of success using with Copic markers. Some of you have to heat set it first, and some of you don't have to heat set it and it works very well. But our colored inks are formulated a little bit differently. So when you hit these with Copic marker, it does blur out your image quite a bit. And I didn't think I would like that until I saw how pretty it looked. So we're going to start with this Leafy image, and we're going to stamp this randomly all over this piece of ivory cardstock. And look at how clean and smooth that image stamps with our ink. Isn't that just beautiful? It's so vibrant and so crisp. So I'm going to continue to stamp this in different directions all around this piece of ivory cardstock. And if you turn your stamp as you go, it'll look a lot more like patterned paper and it won't look so much like a stamped image. It'll look just very, very scattered, and that's the way you want it to look. There we go. A couple more. And then you also want to make sure when you're stamping a background stamp that you are stamping off of the paper too. You don't want all your images just seated right in the center of your cardstock. That doesn't look like a piece of cut pattern paper. That looks like you stamped everything right on the inside. So we want to go off the cardstock like I'm doing now. You can add little elements here and there wherever you see fit. I like to turn it too so it's going the opposite direction. So that looks pretty. Now let me just clean up my mess here. And now I'm going to add those acorns, and I'm going to do those with some of the craft ink. I'm just going to randomly stamp a few of those here and there. So I'll add one here. I'll add one here. You see how I'm turning it so that they're not all going in the same direction. Very, very random. But you want to make sure that you have good, even spacing of each image. Let's put one right up here. There we go. So there we have some acorns in there. And now I want to finish it off with this little dotted swirl image, and I'm going to do that with some of the dark chocolate. I want that to stand out a little bit more, and I'm not going to do a lot of them. I'm just going to find little spots where it would work. Right in here. And it's okay to overlap onto other images. But it just gives a little bit of feeling of movement, which is what I like. And it does kind of match the stems of those leaves. It's just so fun to make your own background paper too. Put one maybe right in here, and one right around that. Okay, so there we have a really pretty fun whimsical background ready to go. And here's where my fun came in. I thought, what would happen if I took a Copic marker and I tried to color in this image? And it just looked so pretty because although it didn't take away too much of the detail, it did blur it just enough that made it look almost like a batik pattern. So I'm going to color some of these in and show you how that looked. You see how it just smears it just a little bit, but just enough that you still see the detail, and it creates a whole different color palette on this background. Isn't that pretty? I love the way it changes the entire color of the ink. And this is not something that you would be able to actually do with a stamp. It'd be very difficult to color each little tiny image in a stamp like this with a marker and then try to stamp it. So this gives the inside of this particular leaf image color as well. It's not just picking up the color that's on the cardstock. Love how pretty this looks. So you kind of get the idea. It really, really brings up the color of that fresh asparagus ink to a new, softer color. So you do want to color the entire part of that green as well. And I really enjoyed playing with this, and the more I did it and the more cards I made using this technique, I thought, wow, what a pretty thing that you can do by making two products that don't want to work together well, work together well. So you can see it's fun to just color. You can use all different colors, try it with a lot of different colors to see what you get. But this cool shadow is just a nice, soft, pale blue, and just enough to change that green, but still keep it autumny and fun. Just a couple more to go, but you can really see the difference between the ones that I've colored, and they come up a brighter color. And then it all kind of just blends together, softens the edges of that detail in those individual leaves. And just a little bit more. Now, if you want to, you can take the next step that I'm going to show you, which is the sponging, but you don't have to do that. You might like it just plain and simple like this, and I've made quite a few cards where I've stopped right here, and I really like the way they look. But I do want to show you what's in my finished card project and how I achieved that, so we will be adding a little bit. So there we go. There is the batiked leaves. They've kind of just run together a little bit. Now I'm going to grab a little bit of our Ocean Mist ink and a sponge dauber and just ink over that. I'm going to just test that color on the back here. Okay, so now just randomly in very small areas, I'm just going to bring in a little bit of that color, and that'll kind of play up on the cool shadow that's inside of those leaves. Just a little bit. Kind of fills in the background a little. And another thing that you can do if you want is you can add more vibrancy along the edge by picking up the paper and rubbing that sponge dauber across the edge like that, you can get more of that deep color along the edge if you want. Now in my finished card project I didn't do this, but I'm looking at it and it's so pretty I want to show it to you in case you decide you want to do it. That'll frame it out very nicely against a lighter, paler cardstock, which in my finished card project I used craft, so that would have actually looked very pretty. So there is that background, that batik look that you can achieve by mixing the Gina K Designs inks along with a Copic marker. This technique will not work with the Memento markers because Memento markers actually are Copic resistant and they will allow the Copic marker to stay intact. So if you want to get that softer, more batik look, use the Gina K Designs ink. Now let me show you a finished card project that I made using this technique. Here I've used that larger leaf from the Grateful Heart mini stamp set, and I've used the Grateful Heart greeting. And then I added a couple little embellishments here that I think really make the card. I really couldn't decide whether to use the dark chocolate double-stitched ribbon or the craft double-stitched ribbon, so I gave in and I used both. 3 strips of ribbon going across the center kind of takes the place of a strip of cardstock, and it really pulls all the colors together. And I added 1 little brad there just to add a little interest and to kind of fill in that little space. It felt like it needed something, and a little brushed copper brad did the trick. The leaf and the Grateful Heart are stamped in our Gina K Designs dark chocolate ink, and I've layered both the focal image and that background paper onto some dark chocolate ink, and then both panels were mounted onto craft cardstock, the bottom one being mounted onto a craft card base. So that is my finished card project. Try this background using wild lilac ink and a soft pink Copic marker, or tomato soup ink and a pale yellow Copic marker to create more vibrant backdrops for your card projects.